Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Premier League presentation. We're going to be bringing you guys a game between Virtus.pro and Team Liquid going on into the second game of this best of 3 series. And what a start. I mean, honestly, Virtus.pro just frankly took Team Liquid to school. Really just obliterated them in the laning phase and had the mid game and late game to back it up. So, I mean, it didn't really even reach late game, but it didn't need to with the amount of presence, with the amount of pressure that they were able to put out outright. I mean, for starting with the first blood team fight, had a great and pretty evident advantage going on into the level 1 engagements, and then from there, the lanes just really worked out. Bane plus Alchemist. What are you going to do? And that's just difficult to deal with. So, in that sense, Virtus.pro taking game 1 of the best of 3 series, and now moving on to, of course, they're on match point. They're trying to move in to clear their way to the winners bracket versus the Lions. Either way, now we are going on to the game, and I think we have video from Verkamon. How's it going?
It's going well, Blaze. That first game, a tough one, and I think TL, if you're TL, you just gotta shake it off. Just be like, okay, we lost, we kind of got wrecked. The draft didn't go that great for us. We didn't quite get the team that we wanted, and then we didn't get the execution. We got caught out of position. VP were hunting us all over the map. But this team isn't that much better than us in a vacuum. We can win this. We just got to sort of pull it together and get the win. And so if they're able to sort of pull themselves together and get their strategy going across all 5 players, I think this should be okay. But VP really impressed me, honestly. I said that we sort of had to watch out for whether AA, Arsart, and NS would work well together. They worked extremely well together that game. Airman was super on point, just farming up that Shadow Blade extremely quickly. He got it at about 10.5 minutes after his boots. So he gets the Shadow Blade, immediately starts moving, and from that point on, TC isn't safe. So Airman doing a great job of mobile hunting. He did make one very prominent error, so people are probably like, dude, like, he had a horrible game. But no, he had an amazing game. That was just one error. So just overall, VP very in form. I wasn't sure that for their form coming into this tournament because their last few series didn't go that great. And obviously they missed DMS, which was, I'm sure, a big disappointment to them. But here they are, doing very well. Playing for that prize pool. I do know that they had that public challenge to Rock's for 10,000. Here they're basically issuing a public challenge to all the other teams in this tournament for 5,000.
Sure, I guess you could take it that way. That's certainly them wanting to prove their might. Honestly, the most stable of rosters in the Russian scene right now. I mean, back and forth for teams like Rock's, teams like Empire. They've had a lot of issues recently, whereas there's only been one trade out for Virtus.pro, taking out Santa for the temporary stand-in here, and almost practically on the roster is Smile or Arzart from Na'Vi. So he's been doing work here, and they seem to get their coordination up. I mean, they've been able to mobilize and stay very active and really just accomplish what they want to. Virtus.pro, though, really quick on the draft. NS, his draft, it seemed a little weird at first, but the way they played it, the way they were comfortable with it, it really showed its strength. And as such, they're drafting just as quickly. They're always ready for whatever Team Liquid has to throw their way. They figured the Knicks would probably be something that they're looking into, and as such, have picked up some great heroes. But Bane, of course, will be able to deal with Lifestealer rather directly as well.
Yep, and Bane's a hero that VP like to play. We saw Arsart do very well with
Team
the
Liquid
last game. Oh, goodness gracious. Sorry. Yes, it's on TL. I was looking straight at the words Team Liquid and was like, ah, yeah, Virtus.pro. So VP have this Lifestealer. Airman very good on this hero. It does again deny it from TC. And you see that Liquid have drafted up the clockwork. So they're not going to get caught flat-footed by not having a good Bulba hero to go with for the second game. The flip side of this is, I'm sure they wanted Puck again for Korok, and VP have secured it for Tame My Wild instead. So I said at the beginning of the first game, watch who gets Puck, because it could be a big deal. And this game, it's going to switch off of Liquid and go to VP.
Yeah, so Tame My Wild is going to be able to do a lot with that here. I mean, technically it could be used on the offlane, but we don't generally see it in that situation, especially now when a Darkseer is already picked up here. So pretty much guaranteed it's going to be in Crazy's hands. TMW is going to be able to do a lot on the mid lane, 1v1. Nyx Assassin could technically try to go head-to-head with him, but more likely we're going to see something more creative out of Korok. And as such, Bulba is going to be taking up the clockwork on that off lane, and then of course down on the bottom lane, one of the two supports, either Fluff or Mike. I've seen, what have you seen as far as between Mike and Fluff? Who's been picking up the Bane more often than not?
Ooh, I think it's probably going to be Mike on the Bane, Fluff on the Nyx Assassin, because Mike is usually on the 5 roll.
Yeah.
And Nyx Assassin rewards getting a little bit of extra gold, a little more than Bane does. Bane has, like, breakpoints, like, if you...
Oh, like, Skype cutting out, unfortunately, but hopefully we can get him back in a moment. I don't know what's going on with Skype today, just a weird connectivity issue between that. I have tried to do some anti-DDoS measures, and that could be as constricting as it is productive, but either way, hopefully he'll be back in a moment. But let's just leave it at that for now, and hopefully he will be back in just a moment. He is calling me back, cool. So hopefully he's here. Maybe not, I don't know. Either way, proceeding with the bans, we do see the Rubik, the Gyrocopter, and the Shadow Demon taken off the board, as well the Templar Assassin and the Luna have been taken on out. Virtus Pro looking for more damage-dealing core heroes, whereas, yeah, I'm not too sure. There we go, okay, cool. Anyways,
I wasn't saying anything important, go ahead.
That's fine. As far as the bans go, right now Team Liquid already has a Bane. They don't want the Shadow Demon. It pretty much plays a very similar role in that sense, and along with that, the supportive Gyrocopter and the Rubik can pose quite a problem. I will mention real quick that Magnus has not seen a mention whatsoever, so if Team Liquid wanted it, they could put it Korok on the mid Magnus, and they could do it without having to worry about a Rubik spell stealing it up. I mean, the puck isn't as good to maneuver when trying to make sure those RPs are on point, but it's still going to be great. It's still going to be very effective up against the Knights, who will be disabled despite being raged, and so on and so forth. But the final ban is a very wise one, in my opinion, taking out the Lone Druid, which TC just plays so darn well.
I like this Lone Druid ban. I love TL's bans of focusing on the supports, including the support gyro. They take out a lot of things that VP might use. Obviously, VP has all their 3 cores, so they need to sort of add 2 supports onto this, and so it makes sense for TL to aggressively ban out those supports. Interestingly enough, we do still see Leshrac, which is a hero that VP really like playing. So I think we are probably going to see Leshrac be one of these 2 final picks. And yeah, TL right now, the main decision they have is, do we want Magnus or not? I don't think Korok is terrifically fond of the hero. Magnus is this weird thing where people who are more playmaker mids generally don't like him because he's not as much of a like, oh, I'll just jump around and sort of get 2 kills everywhere. Magnus, you have the RP cooldown, you use it and you get some kills, rinse and repeat, but that only happens every 2 minutes. What hasn't been banned out this game from VP is Storm Spirit, and that might be too tempting for Korok to pass up, but we'll have to see if they go... It's a go big or go home, basically. Like they could go for Storm Spirit, which would be the high-risk play, or they could go for the Magnus, which is the low-risk play. I have an inkling it'll be Storm, but I'm not sure.
We'll have to see, but a lot of potential there. You mentioned the Leshrac on Virtus Pro's lineup, but I'm not too confident about that based on...
Oh, no! I hate this. It's Korok Shadow Fiend.
Yeah, okay. I could see it. First off, my thought previously with the Leshrac, he doesn't really have the setup right now. The Rubik Telekinesis and the Shadow Demon's Disruption, neither tool being available. It's going to be hard to land those stuns. Like, there's not that many great options to make it work.
Alliance-style Ogre Magi is an option.
Yeah, we do see...
they go with Jug.
Okay. It could be
now
solid.
It's going to be the Magnus, I think. I would guess that now they actually will do Magnus. They'll put... I don't know who they'll put on it. It would have to be... The awkward thing is Bulba really wants to be the Clock, but Bulba's also their main Magnus player.
Okay.
But I actually think Magnus would be so good with the Shadow Fiend, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, Clockwork alone with Shadow Fiend is really good. You can set up double, even triple raises pretty much outright when you get somebody in the cogs, so that can be really great. Same thing with Requiem. Controlling the battlefield in general is going to allow you to get that ultimate off more consistently and more effectively, so that's going to be important there if they can make it work, but... Yeah, no, one thing is it's hard to see how Virtus Pro is going to lane this. Darkseer, Puck, both wanting the solo lane to an extent, and then Lifesteal and Juggernaut, they don't want to be in the same lane together. I have seen in the past different teams picking up a supportive Juggernaut that just does its damage. What they do is pretty much spin and rage at the same time, so you cannot peel away, you cannot Nightmare to disrupt it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that could be working.
That's what it's going to be.
You think
it's
so?
going to be support Jug, Blade, because here's the thing, Blaze. What the hell do TL do if Blade Fury is on their tri-lane? Like, if it's a 3 versus 3?
Yeah.
Like, there's so little response that their tri-lane has to Blade Fury.
Interesting draft. This is honestly something that's... We could talk about these drafts and these picks for, like, half an hour and still wouldn't really get to the bottom of
what... I
want
to.
Sure enough. No, let's just pause the game, ask them to come back in 20 minutes. And no, honestly, I will just have to see how it plays out, to be honest. That's just really... The bottom line is these are very interesting picks. There's a lot of really, really cool ways to make these setups work. But it really comes down to performance and what we're going to see. KSI on the off lane on the Darkseer, Tame My Wild on the mid lane with the Puck, and then in a top tri lane, supportive Arzard on the Juggernaut, the core Lifestealer picked up by Illidan, and then of course NS on the Disruptor. One thing to comment about synergies is that they are going to be able to vacuum into a kinetic field and Static Storm on top of that, which just could completely screw over Team Liquid's lineup. But how do you feel about the Warlock? How do you feel that if he comes into play, do you think he'll be able to make their team fight work nevertheless?
You think the Warlock cripples their team fight? I think it's...
No, obviously it strengthens it quite a bit.
VPs.
I'm just comparing them to. I mean, if NS and...
the Warlock, because it gives them... Right.
If NS and KSI make it work, what are they going to do? How is the Warlock going to come into play? Is it just going to be trying to Golem under Requiem, something like that, or...?
Well, the Golem offers them a disable that goes through... another disable that goes through magic immunity.
Sure.
VP have a very magic immune composition. This is part of my problem with Shadow Fiend. Like, his damage, until he gets a bunch of items, is mostly focused on the fact that Raze does great damage. It's not even Requiem, because Requiem... A little bit of an anemic ability, frankly, until you get the very, very perfect one. So, Raze isn't going to do much against either Airman or Arsart. So, consequently, I think they're probably going to be relying on the Golem to do that damage. So, it comes down, it sort of stuns everybody, they sort of reset the playfield, and they can do a lot on top of that. The issues with this are pretty big. Like, for instance, I'm worried about TC's survival on this Warlock. There could be potentially ganks coming over. If Tame My Wild decides to dive under Tier 1 tower, what's TC's response?
It's difficult. Yeah.
And if they sort of pile on the Disruptor and the Juggernaut with that, the thing about Disruptor, if he puts down a kinetic field and Juggernaut just spins, Juggernaut's spin is one of the best damage over time abilities in the game if the entire duration actually lasts. And Kinetic Field is going to guarantee that in some situations.
Yeah, absolutely. If they can lock somebody in position, there's pretty much no hope for a single one of these. I mean, maybe a Clockwork getting out, but it's a very desperate situation. Either way, TC, I think he'll find an okay time on the mid. I mean, Warlock 1v1 doesn't lose a lane, but to take a phrase that you used before, this game isn't in a vacuum. And as such, there is going to be some rotations. I mean, Lifesteal alone is a 315 movement speed hero with a great slow that could set up great output. Although there is going to be some pressure on Tame My Wild, where he has been enfeebled really quickly by the Bane, and he is taking some damage over time. As a whole, I really think until TCA hits 6, he's going to feel very unconfident about his position. They're going to have to get more active wards up. They do have one good one just over by the Ancients by them, and they're going to be able to set that up so that if it's a non-smoke gank, of course, it won't be a great option, but generally speaking, that's going to come out pretty fast and pretty furious.
The Enfeeble first from Mike is actually really cute. I would like to see him maybe get like a level or two and come back and keep doing it to Tame My Wild. Because if you lower Puck's auto attack to the point that he just can't stand in a lane with Warlock, and Tame My Wild ends up really behind in the laning phase, that's fantastic for Liquid. Warlock is actually excellent in just the not drag out fight because his attack animation is amazing and his damage is good. Plus he has decent scaling. So the Enfeeble would really tip the scales to where TC comes out of the laning phase with just way more farm than TMW does. But that is going to require more Enfeebles, I think. It's going to require Mike to spend more time down in that middle lane.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, he has nothing else to do. I mean, right now he's just stacking, pulling away, getting some neutral experience in that sense, whereas Virtus Pro have a huge advantage when it comes down to that jungle. Using the Ion Shell and the spin, Arzard is like playing jungle Juggernaut right now and has been able to get quite a few creep kills for himself, along with setting up some good experience for Disruptor and for Darkseer. So in this position here, with how actively they're stacking, and the fact that there's only one lane in direct contest, really, it's putting such an edge on Virtus Pro to be able to just completely overwhelm them in experience.
Now, the good news for Liquid in this game is it's not like the Anti-Mage game. They don't need to have it go super long and for Weaver and AM to get big. Shadow Fiend is probably the definition of a mid-game carry. He's not that amazing very early on. He's not that amazing late unless he's way ahead. But in the middle, he rules the roost. And as long as Korok has a pretty safe early game, which it looks like they're going to give him the same sort of respect that they gave TC in the first game, if they don't gank Korok too much, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And that's roughly when Warlock is really strong too. As long as TC finds his levels, roughly around the time you're going to see the level 2 Golem come out to play, especially if he's got Aghanims by that time, it'll be very, very dangerous for VP. Liquid are going to be a huge threat.
TC bottle crowing up immediately, already has Cluckles at bay, ready to go, and so they're just going to drop down both their spells. TC exhausting the remainder of his bottle, and he'll try to get it out by the 4-minute rune. It might be a little bit late for something along those lines there. Tame My Wild pretty much doing the same thing, but for different reasons. It's just the pressure coming out from TC is pretty continuous, and it's difficult to actually confront directly. So I honestly feel that in this laning situation, you can kind of see right now from CS that the TC has the advantage, and it's going to get more and more effective for the puck, or sorry, for TC in this position here. More enfeebles coming on out. So yeah, I believe TC should be even more ahead, but Tamo Wild's a hard player to shut down, especially on a hero like Puck.
It's not so much shutting down. TC has missed some last hits that he shouldn't have missed, because Warlock's not that hard to last hit with. But it's okay. I mean, he's ahead. I think he's doing well. The Enfeeble is going to be good every time they have it. I just feel like TC could be taking even more of an advantage in this lane, because keep in mind, KSI is going to outlevel Bulba. It's almost a fact of life, just because he's in the jungle. Bulba's in this difficult tri-lane. You see Bulba right now, he's just doing this very clever, like, cogs in the creeps so that it makes the lane push towards you.
Yeah.
But so far, VP's lane management has been so good that it still hasn't really moved towards him.
Yeah, that's true. And they've just been pulling very, very actively when they need to, and not when, of course, when they don't. So they are able to keep it where the creep equilibrium stays around this position. It's going to push out a little bit further in a moment, but honestly, not enough to give Bulba what he wants. We do see big initiation on the mid lane. They don't have the golem yet, but they certainly have all the other stuns. They do not get the phase shift off, so they're going to be able to lock him down. Where's that Nightmare, though? Instead, will be able to phase and jaunt away. Ix Smite's only level 1. Oh, that does not work. You cannot enfeeble gank a puck. It just not going to end well for you. So a lot of time committed, but like I said, they don't have all that much else to do.
They
should have waited till level 2. They should have given more experience to Bane.
Other than that, I can't believe they didn't wait for level 2 on Ix Smite. I blame myself for not checking, but I just assumed he was level 2 right now. Oh man, no Nightmare. What were they hoping to do? TC doesn't have his ultimate.
Yeah,
I don't know. God, TL, they've been performing well lately, in my opinion. They did lose those games to EG, but
yeah.
I'm trying not to sound a little more disappointed than I am, because I think VP have played 2 good games so far, but just some fairly unnecessary mistakes.
Dropping the rock, he really wants Tamo Wild, and he will get him. First blood finally coming on through. TC just going deep. It is a big cooldown, but he will survive, he will bottle up, and he will gain that advantage that he's been trying to get the whole time. But I kind of feel that first blood could have come sooner. Bane getting a little bit more experience. I mean, honestly, they were lucky just to get the stun off from the next assassin before the phase shift. But oh, if you could get KSI, that would have been nice. But no.
I'm completely fine with first blood at 5 minutes and 30 seconds onto Taming My Wild. What I'm not fine with is that's not when Fluff and Ix Mike were there.
Yeah.
That would actually give them some pretty decent XP as well as the assist gold if that had been the moment they had decided to rotate. Like, oh, TC's 6, we'll kill him with the golem and the supports will get gold.
But no, just kind of wasting their time trying to make something happen where it just honestly physically can't. Now, however, Warlock is at level 7. He has 3 in each of his abilities, and as such is going to be able to just completely dominate in single target harassment, but he doesn't have much escape, and he's going to have to get his heal over time up immediately before the silence comes through. He does get his heal, but will it be enough? There is so much damage coming on through from that spin, and he's not going to last long enough. Going to take quite a few tower hits back and forth, but either way, the Warlock has fallen, and they're going to be able to continuously control the top and the mid if they just get some good wards up.
Right.
Courier fell
that's
for
sort of what we expected VP to do.
Dire, by the way. I didn't catch that. I had my camera on it, but didn't even realize it. When he dropped the golem, he actually got the kill on the Courier as well. Korok taking a lot of hits here. Ix Mike does have that Nightmare, needs to drop it though, and instead the right click come on through. Illidan's Rage lasting a little bit too long, and he did have Infest as well. So either way, that was just too much for Korok to handle.
They're finding the timing again, Blaze. They're focusing on the right moment to start putting the immense pressure on. And they're doing it for the second game so far. This has got to be a chill up your spine if you're Liquid, because VP, they're looking to make history repeat itself. And Airman, very good rotation in there to prey on Korok. I was just about to mention that, you know, the bright spot is Korok is farming great. He's keeping up with Airman, and he actually has more denies. Not that it matters, because nobody's been in that lane. But he was doing well, and now he's going to have to find safe farm somewhere else. He's knocked down to 14 because, of course, he went that raise before Necromastery, so he's down to 14 stacks, going to have to build that back up. And KSI, very aggressive here. He does have the stacked jungle camp, so this is some extra gold, and ooh, this
nice
could be a
Nightmare
fight.
coming on out. Yeah, they're going to break it out. There's going to be Infest to make things happen, but they're just sniping up the creeps. Just taking a bunch of those stacks and walking away with it. So they're going to be able to keep their gold rolling, and that's just so frustrating for Liquid.
That's a dick move, kind of. Just stealing those creeps out with the Infest. I don't think he stole that many, maybe like 3,
2,
but still.
Well, 3 for the one that infested, you're right. So it adds up pretty quickly, though. So they're going to have to really make something happen, get a kill advantage in heroes, because right now they're at a stage where they're not really making anything happen. We do have the Warlock Golem up. And he does actually have a double damage rune as well, moving quickly towards his mechanism. TC is pretty well combat ready, but I'm not so sure about the rest of the team. A level 3 Bane only has 2 spells to cast with his intellect pool, and along with that, the Nyx Assassin. He had Fluff and stuff nowhere near his Vendetta levels.
They gotta find levels for Mike, in my opinion. Probably levels for Fluff, too. He only has that rank 3. It's not quite like Sand King, because Nyx Assassin is a vastly better hero than Sand King. Sorry, Sand King fans. But it is kind of like Sand King in the sense that the level 3 stun is just so much better than the level 2 stun. But that involves them somehow finding XP. And right now, Airman is just ruining their jungle. You can see he stole another jungle camp.
Yeah, that is just very, very frustrating. He's just moving on around. They do have good observer rewards, so they can try to pin him down, but he's going to get infested up in a moment. He has phase boost for movement speed. There's really not so much that they can do until Fiend's Grip comes out. I mean, they can try. They can, if he makes a mistake and overextends, and yes, they can bring him down. We do see a rotation of TC to maybe capitalize on just that. But in this position, honestly, Illidan is pretty comfortable.
They would have to... No, I mean, TC's here. I think that actually can kill Airman. He's going to have to be fairly careful here. As if he stays as 1, he'll die, in my opinion. He doesn't even have mana for another rage. He will if he pops Magic Stick.
Yeah, he's extremely quick, though. He just got his drums. He has phase boots, and he's just going to be running around like a little race car. It's going to be difficult to pin him down. I mean, yes, they do have the Warlock Golem to set it up if they really want to, but I don't feel that they, at this stage in the game, they want to commit it to a single hero and a single pick. Speaking of, on mid, we do see the Dream Coil come on through, and right inside the cogs, Tame My Wild, dishing out some damage to Bulba. He's actually right-clicking... Oh, he's still in the Dream Coil, of course, so he's not able to escape on out of that. Instead, he just gets dropped down once more, and yeah, the Darkseer comes on by to pick up a little bit of free experience, and now has enough money for the mechanism.
Okay.
Korok is going to TP away, and Ike's Mike has to start running. TC has a Golem again, but he's just going to use the heal over time. That's really, really good for them. I think that Ike's Mike has enough to actually survive. There goes the TP, but here's a vacuum coming on in. Ike's Mike is going to get dropped down, possibly. They don't go for the Golem yet. There it is. On top of both of them, there's a wall of replica. In turn, Illidan really wants Mike. Oh my goodness. Juggernaut picks up a tower kill. KSI dropping low. Will there be enough damage from the bonds? I don't think so. It looks like he's going to survive, and everybody else with him. Illidan still pursuing. Now finding out Bulba. There are no cogs, though, and as such, Illidan will find 1 kill. Wasn't the one he was looking for, but still at least finding some opportunity.
Well,
going down onto
TC's
TC.
not out of the woods.
I don't know. I think that TC will be in okay position with the Golem coming on through. He's trying to bait it out a little bit, get that damage over time effect so that Korok can go for the kill, but again, he's just so swift.
Good turn from Airman.
Really good movement.
He's going to escape completely. He has an easy hatch here, yeah.
So, going on through the escape hatch, no problem there, but the push continues up on the top lane, healing ward, and just easy right-clicks, setting it up so that Arzark can push down the tier 1 tower. So we see the gold continuously moving in favor of Virtus Pro, despite all the back and forth there.
I'm more concerned, I don't care about the gold that much. I'm concerned about levels still. Level 4 Bane, level 5 Clockwork, level 5 Nyx Assassin. Meanwhile, NS has his ultimate. He actually used it on TC in that fight. If he had gotten it earlier, it would have been better, but it was still pretty good. And Arsart, he's level 7. I think he's got tier 2 boots and drums incoming, and that'll be quite strong.
Yeah, extremely powerful. That's adding in a lot of potential there, and although the Shadow Fiend has max souls, he doesn't really have the setup to make it work for them. Fluff, once he gets his Vendetta and max mana, he'll be able to Vendetta in and then maybe go for a double Impale to set it up, but without that, and without the Warlock Golem, they are on thin ice. Clockwork's not going to be able to jump in and guarantee a good Requiem, and as such, their teamfight is quite limited. If they just go for little pickoffs, we're going to see kind of similar to what happened down on bottom lane. They're going to do some damage, get some harassment on in, but the hero, like Lifestealer, is always going to be able to bounce back mid-teamfight, and TP support is going to shut them down, with Virtus Pro having such control, with especially the puck, always being able to pretty much control where he wants to. Actually, both of them going in on Bulba right here. It's going to be a rough spot for him, but he is a survivable hero, and as soon as he sees them, if he doesn't get Dream Coiled immediately, he'll be okay. Pops off the cogs, but Tame My Wild jumps in once again. The right clicks are there, the Omni Slash comes on out, so they'll take a few hits. We do see Ike's Mike coming on in, brain sapping down on Tame My Wild, but he has the bottle, has the magic wand, and yeah, he just doesn't have the levels.
It's rank 2, maybe rank 3, but it's still only 160 damage. It is pure damage, but, you know, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, really. The good news for Liquid, insofar as there is good news, and I think there is Korok is still farming just fine. He's only died once, keep in mind. They've expended some resources trying to kill him and only succeeded the one time. He's got drums, power treads. In terms of levels, he's doing competitively. He's level 9. And they haven't found as many ganks on him as I think VP would want. Yeah. Korok can still hit his window of mid-game dominance, and paired with TC, The Warlock Golem, Fatal Bonds, Warlock Golem, Requiem of Souls will kill a lot, but TC in a lot of trouble here.
The problem is the pickoffs. They're not going to be able to jump. Like, Bulba coming in, very valiant effort, but vacuuming back on through with that Infest, they're both going to fall here. It's just, actually, he does get out. No, Tamo Wild has other plans. Does go for the Jaunt, does go for the Orb, burns him down, and that's 2 kills, again, just completely controlling this position, and they don't have the Golem for another 15 seconds when he respawns. Either way, in this position here, I have to say that their pickoffs are continuous, Virtus.pro's pressure is non-stop, Liquid isn't warding against it, and this is all being done without the use of Glimpse. Glimpse being a great tool to pull people back into the kind of the meat grinder, but right now, NS has used it like once, and it hasn't been finding it.
It's not a glimpse game, honestly. Like, that's not the important. That's not why they picked the Disruptor. 99% of the time when you see Disruptor picks, it's about the glimpse, and he does have it maxed, so it will be useful when he uses it. But the main reasons is kinetic field, and the silence field, and the ability to vacuum into the silence field.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you there. It's just like, all these pickoffs keep on coming through, finding people by themselves. They don't even need to use those kind of tools, is my kind of the point I'm trying to make. I understand that
Actually,
the big...
that last fight, that last fight was the first time we even saw, like, Disruptor mattering at all. He did matter, though.
Yeah, he definitely did make an impact, but he hasn't had to. Fluff coming on in, Vendetta Strike will come on through. They rage out of the stun, though. Bubba has to hit the hookshot and can't get the Vector. Instead of the TP response, here comes the Pug. Tamo Wild with the initiation, coiling, and Waning rifting them down. Now the TC gonna drop the Golem, but no, does cancel it out, knowing that his teammates are not in too much threat. There's the Glimpse pulling back on TC, though, and he's going to fall before he even gets out of that silence. Just no chance at all. Onislash actually dropping down on Bulba. He is pretty well locked. Needs to get this hook shot off perfectly, but nobody to hook to. His allies are completely across the map, and Fluff and stuff falling as well. This game is starting to look as bad as the first one. Like, oh my goodness. Our VP dominating.
The non-traditional supports that they're taking that don't have disables but deal incredible damage have paid off both games.
Yeah.
Because this Juggernaut has been really big. Like I said, what do Liquid do about the spinning Juggernaut? Like, if they don't have Hook available?
Yeah.
And you said Bulba didn't find the Vector. I don't think it's that he didn't find the Vector. Liquid were so split up.
Yeah.
Like, even if he had hooked onto the Lifestealer, Liquid were going down.
What do you do then? It's like, you
again,
trap yourself underneath the tier 2 with a Lifestealer that's half HP. He doesn't have an armlet.
Right.
Oh, he actually does now. But, still, you're going to just get chowed on, and that's just not a great position to be in.
Well, though. I mean, like, VP are playing really well.
Korak, nice TP. Will the vacuum come on through? No. Nice TP. That was actually very clutch.
TP after Glimpse, good. Because TP before Glimpse, you just get Glimpsed and interrupts it. So, I don't know. Korak escapes. He's still the good news. I mean, he has 116 creep kills. Nobody else has more than 75.
Oh, it's a big sentry.
Oh, no!
Big sentry. But he just actually uses it to avoid the conflict while Illidan jumps on in front. Bulba, oh, one more right click. He will not be able to bottle out. Instead, the stuns come on through. There's the Golem onto 3. There's the Fatal Bonds as well. But is there any more damage follow-up, or is it just these two? So far, nothing happening. The spin comes on through, but they're all going to fall back from here. The Courier does get sniped again, unfortunately for VP, and they finally get a Fiend's Grip out. Here's the Healing Ward keeping him up, but the stun delivers too much burst. The Raze is coming on through. Illidan has to walk away, goes inside the creep, will infest out, and a nice connect field locks him in place. They might get out of this. Fluff going for one more stun, does lock it down onto Illidan. Where's the follow-up? Do they have a Nightmare? They do, and of course he will be immolated in a moment. There is Tamo Wild turning around. They bursted hard with the ultimate, with the Waning Rift, and here comes Illidan's right click, all trapped in place. What are you guys gonna do? Just walking into a death trap here, and the Golem is trying to get a return kill, but not even that is gonna work out for them. Oh my goodness, is this just awful for Liquid?
That was depressing, because it seemed like such a good fight.
It could have been. It could have been, but there was the puck. There was the response. They used their tools right at the perfect time.
Entering the fight, completely turning it. Liquid actually finally had the... I almost forgot Bane even has Fiend's Grip as an ability until...
Yeah, he finally got there. He finally got to the point where he could Fiend's Grip up, and that just put them in a position where they could actually dish out that damage. But it didn't matter. The kinetic field was beautiful. The way they placed it in this position here, I mean, they were trapping them all in to the point they were all clumped up together, and as such, they were just able to completely cluster them up.
Not doing that much damage.
Yeah. So
and they're gonna try. I don't know if smoking into the Rush pit is gonna do anything. They're just, I think, trying to counter ward and stuff. But this is a rush on for VP. I don't see how Liquid disrupt this.
No, I mean, there's not really too many opportunities. We did have a bit of a connection issue, but as I was saying, the kinetic field in that fight was so darn perfect. Everybody was locked in but the Nyx Assassin, and so although he was able to set it up where they could get follow-up on the Lifestealer, it forced them all to bunch up hardcore, and the return of Tame on Wild. Oh gosh, putting in all chat unfortunately, but timing up that roast just so everybody's on the same page.
Are taking notes.
Sure, but yeah, in this.
Like sorry, go ahead.
In this spot, it's just like when they bunched them all up with the long duration kinetic field, and it made it so that once they were all grouped, it was a perfect opportunity for them to follow it up with this Dream Coil and Waning Rift. And honestly, during a 3-second silence, all these magic immunity piercing disables we've been talking about have absolutely no impact. They don't have any way of breaking the silence, and they're just going to get completely screwed over. So they have the mechanism that can outlast it in some cases, but in general, Liquid,
coming in again.
They drafted a lineup for control, and then the silences, whether through static or everything else, it just really is nullifying it. Nice silence onto the Bane. Means Illidan is going to be able to break free and just chew on who he wants to. They only get the Dream Coil on Mike. That's a bit of a misplay, but it's not that big of a deal. Korok is going to drop off that Requiem. They're going to see the Golem come on down. They don't have the bonds up just yet, though, and unfortunately, they're not going to get him at all. The wall dropped for them to walk away, taking the Golem with them, and they're actually not done. It looks like Juggernaut was looking for an Omni Slash, but didn't want to go for fluff and stuff.
There's no Golem. I mean, why not? I don't know. That was a really weird fight. I actually thought that Illidan was way too far in, and for a brief moment, it seemed like Liquid might convincingly take the fight with that Fiend's Grip. But Tame My Wild, Bane was like here. He was hidden. And he exactly correctly went on him, silenced out the Fiend's Grip, and from that point on, Liquid can't win the fight. Because they needed at least to pick off the Aegis before the rest of VP reinforced, and because they didn't, VP, they were just like, okay, we'll just kill your Golem trivially easily and then move on to the rest of you, and Liquid having to retreat yet again. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's gonna be tough. Korok, he's working towards BKB, but that first item, BKB here, is just, it's not going to get you the damage. It's not going to get you the ability to actually finish off the opposing team. TC's open wounds.
Yeah, I mean, he has the mechanism, so I think he can make it out of this. Nice defensive Nightmare just to make sure of it, but it's still a lot of damage coming out, and he gets glimpsed right back on into it, vacuuming out of the kinetic field. Actually might have saved him, dropping down the Fatal Bonds. They're actually just going to get pick off on Fluff on the side, going in for more, but they just don't have the nukes. They don't have the damage to follow on through. They don't have any confidence in their team leaving underneath where they're huddled right now, underneath the tier 2.
Yeah, I don't know.
Blinking on in, Tame My Wild gets the coil, gets the Waning Rift, and here's Illidan to try to finish off as many as possible. Nice hook shot coming out from Bulba, but it's not enough. Korok falls, Bulba vacuum back on in. It's a massacre, and they're just obliterated. Too much damage, and honestly, I wouldn't blame them at all if they just called it right here. Like, this is so painful.
Again, back into the silence field. Really good. I know it's not called silence field. It's so rare that we see Disruptor. Static Storm is what it's called. Yeah. That's been really effective at least 3 times, and that time it was placed really perfectly. They haven't even needed perfect execution from NS because they just have so much damage. They just obliterate TL in all of these fights.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, and it comes a lot down to how successful Puck was on the mid. That he didn't get shut down too hard by the Warlock 1v1, and the big rotations for the First Blood. The First Blood happened a minute later than it should have, and as such, when Puck found that Blink Dagger, it opened up whole new worlds of opportunity for their team, because that Vacuum and the Kinetic Static, as we've mentioned, is just such a strong combo. So adding Tame My Wild's mobility to silence out Fiend's Grips and do all these other really cool plays, it all stems from the fact that he was able to find the farm he needed, and they just didn't really have a response. Liquid I had a lot of issues in the laning phase, and it's transferred really hardcore into the fact that they can't find a kill now.
If we look at net worth, it's basically just the Korok show for Liquid. So TC has some stuff. He's got the mechanism for his team. He's carrying an Ogre Club, which is interesting. I guess maybe BKB for Warlock too. But I still just feel like this is not enough. It's not enough stuff. Like, they can't actually do enough in these teamfights to contest VP's damage, which is so not item dependent.
KSI just walking right on into it. There's a couple in weird positions. The hookshot misses, though. There's finally that Fiend's Grip coming on through. KSI should fall, but on the other side of things, we're going to lose the Warlock and the Nyx Assassin. One more right click, all they need. The stun comes on through, though, and they actually screw that up a little bit. Either way, they'll pick up the kill, but on the back end, Korok doing some damage with his ultimate. Ix Mike, can you get the... No, not even the Brain Sap can finish it off. A lot of high ground damage, but Korok has to TP out now, and the Omni Slash will cancel. They will deal the damage, and even then, Korok falls and the good game comes out. I mean, this has just been ridiculous.
Korok dying, actually, it's a pretty poetic timing for that GG when you come down to it. With Korok still alive, like I said, most of their net worth, most of their damage concentrated on that one hero, and with him dropping there, he has buyback, but then you can't even hope for the BKB.
Yeah.
24-4. My God,
Yeah.
VP.
They could not find
And
kills.
I keep going back to, I said to watch the supports, and I really just feel like VP earned so much more from their 4s and 5s in both these games than Liquid got. And Arsard and NS just generating a tremendous quantity of opportunities.
Yeah.
You see Korok and Bulba sort of trying to make plays, but you've got these under-leveled supports that can't really contribute that much to it. TC this game, the Warlock did pretty well mid. I mean, he killed a courier and got first blood all by himself. And in the end, just no control on Airman, the Shadow Fiend. A lot of the time when I see Shadow Fiend, I just think it's more an item of personal preference than it is actually strategically justified. And in this game, even though he found his farm, the SF just, I don't know, it didn't do that much.
Yeah, it's hard. In this position, I don't know. You're talking about the supports, and the Disruptor I don't feel made a big impact in the ganks and in the fights, but as far as zoning, did perfectly. Bulba was really screwed over in the laning phase, and he couldn't find opportunities. A lot of the time, one thing that people make a huge mistake of when they're going up against Team Liquid is they let Bulba get a 1v1 clockwork lane. And when that happens, he always gets enough experience to, the second that he has his ulti, he picks up a TB scroll. And that's what kind of allows Liquid to be that heavy response team. The second they need somebody across the map, they're there, and they're committing big cooldowns to either chase or turn things around very effectively. But that didn't happen this game. Bulba was behind, and terribly behind, to the extent that Fluff was 3 and Mike was 1, and they needed 2 and 2 of each. So the experience split wasn't great, and their top lane was doing poorly as well. So when it came down to transitioning, when it came down to team fights and the skirmish engagements, they just didn't have a leg to stand on. So just obliterated once more, and it's getting worse and worse. One last thing I want to comment on is I really love the pickup of the Diffusal Blade on the Juggernaut. He didn't really get a chance to use it very much, but so darn strong against Warlock and making sure that Golem's not a factor. Of course, he was going for Ags long term, but for a while, it's just pretty much dispensing an ATM machine.
The thing about Ags, going Ags on Warlock against a Juggernaut with Diffusal is sure you still have one Golem up, but it's actually a little bit weaker. It does less melee damage and lower health. Okay. And we saw Illidan can just, he can eat those Golems, just use an open wounds on them, and there, thank you for the 100 gold Warlock, I really appreciate it. I don't know, VP looking good, dude. We can't take anything away from them, honestly.
Yeah.
Liquid didn't get what they wanted to get going, but VP played excellently both games, and both times taking a non-traditional support route. I actually have not seen Gyro support from them that much before, but they successfully sort of baited Liquid into thinking it was Airman's hero, and then completely changing it around in the second ban phase. This game, also very non-traditional choices, the Disruptor and the Juggernaut, and in the end, just the Jug damage combined with just very strong rotation and out-positioning Liquid regularly allows them to take it 2-0, and I said earlier, after I feel like I'm kind of flighty now, because after seeing Alliance's game, I was like, my god, Blaze, they're gonna cruise. And then after seeing VP's game, I want to be like, my god, Blaze.
Yeah. The winner's bracket match is going to be an exciting one. We're going to have that tomorrow, and that's going to be very interesting to see Virtus Pro and their new kind of style that they're coming into their own with, going up against Alliance, who have always been a dominant force and always have something interesting up their sleeve. But one thing I want to comment on before we close on out of this is you were talking multiple times over about the psychology and the intentions behind Virtus Pro here, not getting on into EMS, and as such weren't able to participate in a competitive environment as directly. Well, they certainly seems to have made use of that time. Scrimming, practicing, finding strats that work, because these unorthodox supports have been just perfect for them in every single one of these games.
They researched, and I think they researched their opposition here. NS, he wrote a great article about EMS making predictions. He was like, hey, I'm not in this tournament, so all I've been doing is like watching VODs and studying these teams. And clearly, even though TL weren't at EMS, they kind of got downloaded here. Like, VP were really taking advantage of Liquid's downsides. And speaking of mentality, the Shadow Fiend pick, kind of like a comfort, like falling back on something you're comfortable with and like, regardless of whether it's the right pick for the situation, in my opinion.
I mean, honestly, I don't hate the Shadow Fiend pick. If he had gotten maxed out Presence of the Dark Lord and a Desolator, suddenly the lifesteal is a lot less scary, and those kind of things like come in very... he doesn't want to build like a tanky hero. He doesn't want to build something that needs a heart to be able to fight, because there is, of course, that feast. So I honestly think it is a fine pick. It was just how the fights broke down, and the fact that, honestly, Virtus Pro was ready. They had silences for those big spellcasts. They had 2 magic immune heroes. I mean, what do you do against that? It's really difficult.
It's tough. It's really, really hard. And they didn't quite solve it here, but Liquid aren't out of the tournament. They go into the losers bracket against Fnatic. I think those games are tomorrow.
Yeah, but we're going to have the losers bracket match at 18 o'clock Central European time prior to the winners bracket match, which will be at 21 o'clock. For the Eastern Daylight Time, that would be starting at noon, and then moving on at 3 o'clock for the secondary match.
Yep.
Alrighty then, so that's pretty much it for us. If you guys want to stick around, I'm going to try to get Virtus Pro in, one of their guys in for Ask the Pros, which is a post-match interview. We've had issues with them individually, some language barriers along with the fact that it's always going to be evening by them in general, just because of the time zones, but we'll see if we can get one of them on. It'll be, if we do get the interview going, it'll be on twitch.tv/the Premier League, or you can check it out at thepremierleague.eu/TPLTV. Either way works, and if we do get them on, I'll be taking questions from the chat and seeing what the viewers want to ask individual players like NS or whoever. Anyways, it's been great to cast. These weren't the most exciting games, and I'm hoping that Liquid will be able to step it up so that we get cool back and forth. I don't want to flame them. I don't want to barrage them, but honestly, this was not their games. This is not the Liquid that we want to see going to the International 3. So they know they need to step it up, and I'm sure that they're gonna try to bring something better, their A game, to tomorrow at least. Yeah,
I mean, Liquid, when they're on, they're just shockingly good. And the way that Liquid play, and I'm going to shut up after this because we're like way over time, but the way that Liquid play is always going to make them look like idiots when they lose, right?
Sure.
And when they're on, they're going to look like, oh my god, this is the greatest team in the world.
Yeah.
So the fact that they lost here doesn't reflect, like, it's not like, oh my god, they're a horrible team. It's just they play a high-risk dodo.
Exactly,
and
risk-reward.
The risk of high-risk dodo is that you look dumb when you lose.
But, you know, I'm sure there's wins on the horizon. They obviously hope it'll be in TPL, but we'll have to see what they bring. Either way, that is going to be it for us. 2-0 victory in favor of Virtus Pro here. They take the match, and they will be fighting out against Alliance in the winners bracket match tomorrow at 21 o'clock. Otherwise, Team Liquid will be fighting out against Fnatic, which will be a pretty interesting match as well. So, awesome stuff for day one of the playoffs here. We'll be bringing you guys more awesome Dota 2 content over the next 2 days. So, stay tuned. Check out the PremierLeague.eu for those playoff brackets and the time schedule. Either way, it's been an honor to cast for you guys. I myself am Blaze. You can check me out at twitter.com/BlazeCasting or any other extension with Blaze Casting. And for Vikrmond, he's over at his own website as well as the Twitch and Twitter. You can pretty much just Google his name, VYKROMOND, and you will find some awesome content that he delivers to you guys directly. So either way, thanks for tuning in, and it's been an awesome day of Dota.